What's up, guys? This is Matt with Avoda Talk, or the real Matt Walton. This is your hub for all things kingdom business, business as ministry, business strategy. My goal is to provide as much value minute by minute each podcast that you listen to. So let's get to it. What's up, guys? This is Matt Walton with Avoda Talk, or at the real Matt Walton, depending on how you found me. And man, welcome back. I am super excited about today. I will introduce this man next to me here in a minute. Man, this last week has been incredible. We've had a lot of growth within the business, so praise God for that. We are 2 pools ahead of where we were at all of last year, and we're on track to be 150% growth this year, and actually over 300% growth across all the divisions. And so it's just awesome to watch God move in big ways. Woke up early this morning, went on a run, really dialing in my macros and my eating, my sleep, every little bitty detail. And it's awesome because my mind is so clear right now. And it's because of those little bitty things. So hopefully that encourages you guys. But man, we're going to get into it. This man next to me his name is Josh Galindo. And thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my absolute treat. Thanks for having me. Sincerely. Very cool.
Man, so we met at Founders League, and which you actually cleaned up at the Founders League. And we, we're here today, gave them a tour this morning. I've got, just wait till after to open this. I wanted to give this to you, just something that I wrote.
Very cool. I got a coffee from you that was custom built to my liking and a card. Great touch. Very classy, man. Thank you. I will.
You got it, man. You got it. Let me see if I can find it really quick because I want to read this and introduce you in this way. One of the posts that I saw from Josh that I really loved was blank your excuses. And so dad left. This is describing some things about Josh. Dad left at 1 year old. Mom never remarried. Raised by a single mother. Shot left eye out in 6th grade. 4 eye surgeries. Essentially dropped out of 6th grade. Pushed into 8th grade. Expelled multiple times. Lived in Mexico lockdown facility for 16 months. Returned home. Dropped out of high school. No college degree. Survived 2008 Great Recession. But the best one to me was a comment from somebody that said, "You didn't mention that you stuck by your wife's side whenever she was battling cancer." Dude, that hit me. That's incredible. So anyways, that's the man right here.
I forgot to put that on the list. Yeah, no, that sums up a lot of it. Those are the big ticket items. There's been a lot of granular struggle in between all of that, but it's made me who I am, and I'm super grateful for everything on that, and I wouldn't change anything about it. But yeah, my wife did. So the pandemic had hit. I'm in real estate, obviously, and I had about 30 rental properties, all paid for. I was like, man, I think I made it. I'm not going to stop working, but like that was that moment where I was like, I've met the financially free space, and pandemic hits. And it was right when I went on my own with my flipping business. So I was all self-funded. And I'm blowing through construction, so tons of demo. I couldn't rent these houses if I wanted to because I had already demoed all of them. So I had to just push through to get them flipped. And I'm sitting in my backyard. My entire house is enjoying the pandemic vacation. And I'm in my backyard watching the news. And Steve Sisolak comes out. And I'm thinking, oh, I'll be fine. I have all my rentals and they'll pay my bills and no issue. And he comes out, the governor at the time, and he goes, there's a rental payment moratorium or something. Tenants don't have to pay their landlords. I'm like, I almost slid out of my chair. Like, my gosh, how am I going to get through this? That was my livelihood. And because I'm self-employed, I don't have the luxury of like tapping into unemployment or any of these other things that other government assistance. And this was all at the time. I ended up getting the PPP loan, but this was at that time. Anyway, long story short, I survived the pandemic. We get through it. It's fine. And I'm looking at Chris and I'm like, we're going to come out of this thing like a rocket. And like 6 months into the coming out of the pandemic, she goes, I think I have a lump on my breast, and goes to the doctor. I'm not thinking anything of it with any sincerity because health wasn't really an important item to me. It was very much taken advantage of or take for granted. It's like, oh, of course we're healthy. We're young. Of course we're healthy. Now like my wife and I, it's like health is like always number one. And then it's any family, then it's wealth. Like money actually fell way down the totem pole after learning about how serious health is. Anyway, so she goes to the doctor. I'm thinking it's going to be no big deal. She comes home and we don't have service in my neighborhood. So I'm calling her. She's not answering. And I see her come around the corner and she can't even talk. She just looks at me and she goes, and that was it. And that was a heavy moment, dog.
How did you, was there never any question? Got you. Or what was that like?
I mean, so first The first thing is that you start having natural thoughts. And I've always been taught not to take my thoughts too seriously because your brain can take you into spaces that are totally irrational and make no sense. And if you take every thought that you have seriously, then you can act on these crazy thoughts. But the fact that your brain's having them, it shouldn't be faulted. They're just thoughts. So with that said, at the time I had 4 little kids. And then I was just told my wife has cancer. And my understanding is that you die from cancer. So then you start like processing, like, what does the rest of my life look like? Like, what do my kids' lives look like? Do you remarry? Do you not remarry? But then my daughters need a mom. My son, my kid, my boys will have me. So you start having like these and then it turns into like survival and win at all costs. And I'm a naturally competitive person that just desires to win. And so after having processed all of those natural thoughts, which is why I brought them up, I just made a commitment that we were going to win no matter what. And I said, I'm going to create the most VIP cancer experience that you can have. And my wife did not have it easy. Like, there are women out there, which everybody's journey is their own, and I respect and honor each of their journeys. But like, some women will have 4 rounds of chemo and then surgery to remove the tumor. My wife had 16 rounds of chemo and 25 rounds of radiation. Then she had a double mastectomy. Then she had expanders. Then she had another surgery to reconstruct her breasts. So a double mastectomy is like rip them off. So like, it was so for me, it was a brutal journey. For me, it was very important to create a VIP experience for her. And I feel that I did. I honored her. We started a nonprofit where we pay for women to receive cold capping, which is a technique that can be used to preserve their hair during chemo. Like guys like us, and even some guys, if they don't want to lose their hair, I can respect that too. But guys like us be like, whatever, I don't care about losing my hair. But like, for a woman, you have to think that's like a massive part of their identity. And it screams, I have a disease in my body, and this is the result of it. So on a visual level, it's tough to look in the mirror and see not health. So it was important for us to preserve her hair, because it was the only thing we can control in this whole thing. And that was the whole journey to that. I won't use up too much time speaking on it. So that charity was born from that. It's called Galindo Gives. And it puts these females in a position to be able to preserve their hair, so that when they're done with chemo, they don't have to, because you got to think, like, hair grows slowly. So these women, it could take 2 years to get your hair back to here. It's like each phase, that goes of it growing. So I look back, and something I said was that if we're going to lose the one thing I believe that every human on the planet is entitled to, which is health, everything else, we are not entitled to anything, in my opinion. But we are given one thing the day we're born, and that's health. And when that card is taken away, I said to myself, we're not going to get through this journey and at the end of it just be given back something that I'm entitled to on day one. Now, it's up to us to abuse it or preserve it, but it was given to us by God, which was health. And so I said, I'm going to make this worthwhile. So I screamed. I told the whole world that this was what our family was going through. They all came out in groves to pray for us and send us good energy and health. And then my wife became like an advocate or a spokesperson for other females in the city. Like, if someone gets breast cancer, there's a good chance that my wife's name will be handed to them, and she'll be called to help them through that journey. So we look back at it now, and we're cancer free, and we're super healthy, and my wife's beautiful and happy, and my kids are all happy and healthy. We just told my kids last year. That was the other big thing. We didn't want to spook the crap out of them, because they don't understand that you can heal from cancer. So preserving her hair and making her look normal was important, because she didn't have the mental strength to know that her children knew that she had cancer and that she may not be able to survive it. So it was super important for us to not have the kids know. So now that she's healed and happy and everything, now the kids know.
They know.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
my oldest was like, I kind of could tell there was something up there, Mom, but they don't quite grasp it, but they will, and they'll understand how incredibly powerful and strong their mom was.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
So, yeah, there you go, dog.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think I look forward to meeting your wife, man. That takes a special human being. I know God brings people through those seasons that can handle those things. And so the fact that y'all came out on top, even better, man. That's so awesome. There's a scripture that talks about God uses everything. The devil will means to destroy, but God will use those things for your good and for his glory. And that seems to be exactly what he did there. How awesome was that, man?
Thank you.
So, I've got a question for you. I want to briefly talk about, so I saw you running on social media.
Yeah.
Is that regular? Are you doing that?
I've always been a health nut, but I just recently picked up the running like long distance, like 3.5 to 5 miles. Like as crazy as I've worked out my whole life, been into fitness my whole life. And outside of like tracking like a soccer game or a football game, I don't think I've ever ran like further than 2.5 miles in my whole life that I think like on a treadmill or something. And so the kids were all out of school and soccer was on pause. So I said, hey guys, let's all go run one day. And as a family, and they ended up loving it. And it was such an incredible experience. Like, my 4-year-old, he pushed scootered and ran, but then every other one, my 7, 9, and 11-year-old, they all ran the 3.5 miles with my wife and I, and it was awesome.
Your 11-year-old, she was that's the girl, right? She was cleaning everybody up.
That's my oldest, and
Okay.
no, that's my boy, and he wasn't. It was my 7-year-old, and she was a beast. I could not catch her. And then she's toying with me. She'd stop, let me catch up, and then bolt off again. And I'm like, everything in me. It was funny because I heard you say you woke up and ran. I've always worked out and always lifted weights. And I've always believed that that's been really good for my mind. But this running thing has been incredibly good for my mind and my peace and my happiness and, shirt off, the sun beating down on me, and just enjoying Mother Nature and the outdoors. But I'm just curious, is that a part of you, the running thing?
6 days a week.
Dude, when I say I'm new to this, I'm like 3 weeks into it.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, incredible.
Yeah.
I'm like so grateful I found it.
Give me both, man. So I'm new into it as well. So I was 220, I'm 160 pounds right now. I was 220 pounds 8 months ago. So I got really big. So I lost a lot of weight when I first bought this business and came out here, lost a ton of weight, went from 220 to 165, but it wasn't how I quit smoking. And so that was the reason why I changed a lot of things in my life at that point. And that was the reason why. Fast forward, I put all that weight back on. And then last October, right around that time, I started doing animal-based, which is I only eat meat, fruit, like cooking tallow, salt, raw dairy, eggs, that's it.
Love it.
And so I lost a ton of weight, but I was working on that discipline because I lacked it because it was like health wasn't a priority to me. And so, but I started noticing I'm out of breath, I'm not present, I'm always thinking about those things. I'm always like, just in some type of lethargy. So when I started eating that way, I immediately had mind clarity, had more energy than I could explain, and I was fired up and motivated to do that. So I changed that. Still to this day, that's how I eat. I haven't cheated one time, haven't gone against that at all.
And how long?
One time, 8 months, almost 9 months.
So when you said, just to get some clarity there, because I think that might be my next habit I'll adopt is being, which I've always ate clean, but like really, really clean and intentional. But so you said just meat?
So
Fruit.
animal-based, yeah.
Animal-based.
Meat, fruit. So like meat, like I eat like a lot of hamburger meat, can eat some chicken, small fish, like shellfish, that kind of deal. Cause a lot of fish has high metals in it and has a lot of things in it that aren't good. And then I eat, eggs, raw dairy. So raw cheese, you can buy at Costco or Sprouts. Raw dairy, you can buy at places out here, even though it's illegal. And then it's crazy. Raw dairy is illegal. It's insane, but there's places where you can go and get it.
Right.
And then I cook in tallow and salt. And dude,
Tallow is, what is tallow?
it's just from a cow. Yeah, it's just from a cow. It replaces because like olive oil and those different oils are not good when you heat them up. So at a certain temperature, they start to deplete their nutritional value and they turn into not being good. So cooking with olive oil, avocado oil is actually not good. And cooking with tallow, it doesn't have those same burn,
What about cooking with butter?
Well, as long as it's 100% grass fed, like that butter is good. Yeah.
Better than avocado and other oils, at least, right?
And we cook with that sometimes.
Okay.
But I'll eat like raw butter or at least butter that is, meets that standard. But dude, 8, 9 months, I forget the timeline there, but it's like October all the way through now. And then how I started was I've been against running. Like that's not anything that I do, but I started walking every morning to build that discipline.
Yeah.
And then I literally would run for 30 seconds, break for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I repeated that 8 times. Now, and then I started running for time, like, okay, let me run for 20 minutes, and now I started running for distance.
Yeah.
And I do a little bit over 2.5 miles every day. I get over 18 miles a week.
I love it.
Next step is 3.1 miles. That's next week I start that.
Yeah. That's the thing. When you tell people to go run, it's not like I go out there and sprinted 3.5 miles with my kids. Because this running thing on my social, like got a lot of attention. It was like I didn't sprint, force my kid. I didn't do anything crazy. It was like I ran until I was out of breath, and then I stopped, and I walked. And when I felt good again, I ran again. It was just getting the 3.5 miles in. Now I can run the whole 3.5 miles. But yeah, so for me, I think what we both would love for the viewers to hear is just get out there and push your body in any way that you can. And when You're tired, you stop, you walk. And then when you're ready to run again, you run. And then before you know it, you'll be running the 1 whole mile. And then, you do it again. But yeah, you don't have to go out there and be an athlete like a freaking marathon runner. Just get out there and move your body.
I always one of the biggest changes for me was I'm not training for a marathon. I'm not training for any of that. Dude, I'm just doing this so that I can be present with my daughter, so that my daughter doesn't accept anything less, so that whenever she sees a bum, she's like, no. My dad, man, he raised that bar and held that standard so high. And for me, it starts with doing something hard, waking up early, doing all the things we're talking about.
That is such a powerful statement. I heard it on social, and I don't generally repeat stuff from social. I like to create my own thoughts and articulate those. But this one was so good. It says that whoever these women bring home, they essentially brought home dad. Because you marry you marry parents, and so I've thought about that ever since I heard that. And I'm like, whoever my daughter brings home, it's a reflection of how I raised her, what's comfortable for her. And so to your point, I want to be fit. I want to keep my word. I want to be disciplined. I want to be, I want to be an elite human being, so that when she brings home somebody comparable to dad, I can be like, that's who you deserve. So yeah, with just these guys out there like, I hate my wife or my daughter's boyfriend. She brought home you, dog.
Yep. So that kind of gets us into excellency. And, I view you, because I've observed, I kind of observed the way that you handled communication in different people at Founders League, the couple times that I would see you, and just from afar on social media. And I believe that what I know about you, you operate out of excellency. What does that mean to you?
I heard you use the word a few times, and I outside of this conversation, giving me the tour of your facility, excellency to me, it's not the actual word that I use, but I totally get it. And when I hear that word, how I would define it and how it shows up in my life is everything is with intention. Nothing is by accident. Everything that I'm doing is intentional and to the best degree of my ability. And I'm a big believer in just beating who I was yesterday. So many people are out there competing against other people. And the drawback of competing against other people is that you're not playing in the same playing field. This other person could have inherited money. They could have met somebody that you didn't have the opportunity to meet. They could have gone to more schooling than you. They could have a gene in their body that gives them an extra 2 hours of energy in a day that you don't have. And the other worst thing, the worst part about competing with other people is that what happens when you beat the person you're competing against? You just stop? You know what I'm saying? So if I was competing against other people, the first year I made $80,000, I would have beat 99% of America. And then I'm a superhero? Well, then what about when I get to 100 or 120? Or when instead of being 220 pounds, I'm 215 pounds. Or, well, now I'm married, so I'm better than the other guy. It's like competing against other people caps your growth. So my big thing is excellence. Wake up and beat who I was yesterday. The best thing about that too, in my opinion, is that I'm still a human being, and I've had to learn all this. I've learned all this through life, meaning I'm not a superhero. I can't go forever. So when I'm just competing against me, if I need a break, the person I'm competing against is also taking a break. These people that burn themselves out, that make irrational, poor decisions, it's rooted in, well, the other guy hasn't stopped running, so I have to keep running. Well, your legs are telling you that if you don't stop running, you're going to break them. Well, I can't stop because he's still running. And then you end up breaking your leg, and now you're out for 6 months. Versus if I'm just saying to myself, I just want to beat who I was yesterday, and my legs go, I need a break. Well, then I give myself a break, and the person I'm competing with is also taking a break. So it's just be 1% better of who you are yesterday. Be intentional. And to me, that's essentially me living through excellence.
Does that start with discipline? Does it start with routine? Like how do you, I guess, track that, manage that? And are you a very disciplined individual with your routines?
I'm incredibly disciplined. I was embarrassed to be 20 plus minutes late today, but I was up at 5:30 this morning, and I wake up, I cold plunge. I have a cold plunge outside on my balcony right next to my bed. That gets my body moving. I sit in the sun. Brush my teeth, take my supplements, get on clothes, go straight to the gym. Actually, before the gym today, I went and checked on a house. So I'm at this house that I just built a pool in-ground pool, at 6:30 in the morning, walking this house. And then I go to the gym, then I worked out, and then I ran back home, got dressed, kissed my wife, kissed my kids, and then bolted over here. But each of those things are disciplined. So every single morning I go to the gym. That's why I'm saying that this running thing was just new to my fitness routine. But every morning I go to the gym. And again, to my point about staying in routine, is just go. There's so many times I go to the gym, they got these chairs in this back VIP room that I'm a member to, which is only $350 a year. It's nothing, but it's a good spot to be. Anyway, they got these chairs. There's times I'll go into the gym and then I'll just sit in these chairs for 30 minutes. When I feel like going, I'll go up to the treadmill and walk for a mile and then go, gym's done for the day. And there's times that I come in and I do a full body lift session. But the point is that I go every day. So that I never stop the routine. So to your point about routine and discipline, that's where some people are like, they're just extreme and then they do nothing, extreme and they do nothing. It's like, bro, I go to the gym every single day. And if I can't go to the gym that day, it's because I'm doing something with my family, soccer related. And then I'll go and I'll do some type of exercise with the kids through soccer. But to me, I have to go to the gym. And not just because the byproduct of going to the gym is that I look like I work out. That's just the byproduct. But why I'm really going is maintaining discipline, giving myself purpose and a place to be early in the morning, right away, and then mental clarity, for sure. For sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to pivot just a little bit and go back to the comment that was made, or the deal that you posted about your dad. You're okay with it?
Man, I'm an open book, brother.
All right. Did you have to forgive?
100%. I was very.
How did that go?
So the whole Mexico thing, essentially, we just have limited time, so I can't go into everything, but I'd love to either have you on my podcast or do another one of these. But I was basically essentially kidnapped out of bed and taken to a troubled teens rehab facility, boot camp, military school in Ensenada, Mexico, where I lived for 16 months in a lockdown facility. And I was an extremely angry, rebellious kid leading up to that. I think naturally I will always own what I, was given to me by God. I think naturally I was an ambitious, creative, curious individual. And I just didn't know how to harness that energy. It was almost like, just radiated from every pore in my body and shot in every direction. By going to this school in Mexico, it kind of what taught me to hone that burning desire to go and create, but it taught me how to hone that energy. Well, in order to hone energy like that, you have to deal with demons. And the demons in me were dad leaving, for sure. That created worthy issues, self-esteem issues. I'm at soccer, and my amazing mom, who did the best she possibly could, takes me to soccer. And I look over at little Jimmy, and Jimmy's there with his mom and dad. And I'm going, where's my dad? So there was a point in my journey as a young child, not even man yet, where I started to understand there was a difference. And then with difference, it creates comparison. And with comparison, there's dismantling of self-esteem and confidence. Well, why is this person better? Even if they're worse, well, I'm better. Comparison's horrible. But that was what was happening. And so while I was in Mexico, one, I had to realize I had all these issues from dad leaving. That was a massive reflection moment, which took a lot of therapy and a lot of other things to figure that out. I had to understand that was why I was angry. And then once I had that realization, I had to rebuild around the fact that was a part of my life. Well, the only way to do that is to accept that was a part of your life, and through forgiveness. And so one of the techniques that they had taught me, aside from lots and lots of therapy, there's people where their dad has left them, and if you bring it up, they can't even talk about it, or they'll justify it, or they'll scoot. Dude, my dad left. He abandoned me. He remarried. I got half siblings out. I can speak to it without plucking a cord. I'm not sensitive to it anymore because I spoke about it so much. And that's what allows humans to become desensitized to trauma, is to talk about it. So, but I'll go back to how I initially forgave him, is I wrote a long letter with all of my emotions, all of my feelings, all of my pain, all of everything that I felt I had around that dad issue. And we all went out to the ocean, because this facility was on the ocean, which we never got to go in the ocean. It wasn't even like that. It was just on the beach. And we burnt these letters. And that was it. And so I got to watch this letter disintegrate and leave the earth. And then at that point, about choice that you kind of spoke of before this podcast, at that point, I had a choice. I can continue to drag myself through the pain and validate self-limiting beliefs through poor behavior, or I could choose a new set of beliefs and a new set of behavior to validate those new sets of belief systems, to validate that new belief system. And that's what I did. And I did it through what I call the easiest way to make change. So if I can give some insight to your audience, I'm a big believer in finding God and Jesus, and anything that my sister is in AA, which she's totally comfortable me talking about, and she's found God in a really beautiful way, and I've watched it help her. But so you could go that direction, and if you don't want to go that direction right out the gate, it's a very simple thing you can start with. It's called an I am statement. Any of the negative thoughts that you have about yourself, You just write them down. I am fat. I'm ugly. I'm stupid. I'm unliked. I'm not loved. Whatever it is, that you got to be honest though. You got to write them all down. Then you just create the complete polar opposite of those negative beliefs. So I'm fit. I'm smart. I'm handsome. I'm beautiful. I'm loved. Whatever it is, okay? So for me, mine is I am a powerful, caring, honest, worthy young man of God. And I've lived my whole life that way. And I could go into defining each one and why I picked each word, et cetera, et cetera. But you wake up every day and you say that in the morning, 1 or 2 times a day in the morning, and then 1 or 2 times before bed. And your belief system will begin to change and you will see changes in your life. But you have to reprogram how you speak to yourself.
That makes me think. I'm going to look at this real quick.
Sorry, that was long-winded.
Dude, that right there, it goes perfectly with this. This is something that I've had to work through, but it's this process of, and I do this when I go out and evangelize and talk to people on the streets or even talk to my guys. It's like, what are you afraid of? You know, first we need to diagnose some of these fears, because a lot of whatever that is, you know, and then there's got to be something that somebody has told you, or something that you have told yourself, maybe you hate about yourself, or whatever it is. Maybe somebody said you were
100%.
this or that,
Yeah.
that you believed or subconsciously. Once you kind of define all of those, you know, then it's like, okay, God, what do you say? What do you say about me? And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like God is speaking to us. And if we get still with the Lord, we'll hear from the Lord. And God's never like, yeah, I told you were going to do that. You know, yeah, you are a bad dad. You know, he's like, man, let me show you how. Like, come on, man. I made you X, Y, and Z. You know, I made you this incredible blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean that we're perfect or anything. But so I go through, after I ask God, okay, well, what do you think about me? We have to receive what God says about us. This is where there's kind of like this identity exchange, you know, goes exactly what you were talking about. And then what does that person do? You know, so it's this active relationship with God about, you know, God, I know you're speaking to me. What are you saying about me? Here's some things that I believe. How would you replace those things that I believe? And then asking God, what does that person do? Because for me, it was world changer. You're a world changer. You're a rescuer.
Sure.
Okay. Now, what does that person do tomorrow? What does that person do right now? And so it's just that active relationship with God that you just described, man. And I absolutely love it, you know, and it kind of goes in. I want to pivot more to some business stuff. I'd asked you, I don't remember where I asked you this question, but you had mentioned to me about legacy business. And what is I guess this is gonna be a long-winded question, but you made a post one day, I think it was a story, and it was on Monday morning, and you were showing your parking lot of all the people that were there on Monday morning. Yeah. That to me is so powerful, you know, because dude, it's like, yeah, dude, we're all our people, man, you know.
All about it. Yeah.
So what does that mean to you? Like, why that post? What is legacy? What is all that?
Well, there's 2 things there I think that I'd have to unpack. Is one, the post, and you said people. The least amount of money I make of my sources of income is from Galindo Group Real Estate. It's the lowest money maker. It wouldn't make my car payments, but I do it because I love the people component. I love going into my office and seeing like-minded human beings overcoming challenge, collaborating together to overcome challenge, celebrating wins, just male bonding, encouraging the females, watching the females bond. You know, there's just so much human interaction that I love and I crave. And that is the working environment that is best for me to go and implement my other skill sets where I can make more money, because of that fulfillment that I get from being around people. And it's a really rich, strong culture of really empowering each other to win, sharing our knowledge, not being restrictive with that, so that they can shorten the learning curve of the next individual receiving that information. Okay, so one, that's the first thing about people and Galindo Group Real Estate. I just love that component of my life. And it's not the most financially rewarding component of my life, but that's okay because it's a big part of it. Then you said, crap, what was it? What was the other part of that? Legacy. Okay. So I've been mentored by so many great men that some 2 have passed that I will remember the rest of my life. The rest of my life. I enjoy honoring those men, and I will always vocalize my gratitude for what they've done in my life. And so for me, I want to leave a legacy that people will remember. And what the people that mentored me don't even realize is that a lot of what I am articulating to my ecosystem and sphere of influence is the lessons that they taught me. So like Ronaldo Taberti, for example, or Rex Jarrett, those guys instilled lots of beautiful things into me that I'm teaching to my agents, and they don't even know it. So their legacy is living through me, into other people. And so for me, I want people to look back when they're 60, 70, 80 years old, hopefully a whole lot of other times in between, and go, this guy Josh taught me this. You know, I sat down with Josh, or I remember working next to Josh or alongside Josh, and I remember he taught me this lesson. And to me, I just think that's cool. Really, it's not rooted in anything else. It's kind of like running. Why do you run? I don't know. I don't have any real reason. So I just think leaving a legacy is cool. I feel like that's why God put me on this planet, is to just help people. And there's no accents that my whole journey has been about helping people. And a lot of people have been touched by me. And I find fulfillment in it. If I didn't, I wouldn't do it.
And that's definitely, that's why, one of the reasons why we get along, you know, because it's and why I really respect what you're doing. And it's not to, dude, I a lot of times when I'm observing somebody and studying somebody before, you know, diving into a relationship with the individual, because I want to make sure, is that individual have something that I want, you know? And I'm talking like a mentality.
Money. It's never monetary, ever.
Yeah.
I have so many rich friends, they never give me $1. Never.
Dude, that's not
it's
what
mine. Yeah.
Exactly. Like what traits can I pick up from you?
Right.
What inspiration can I get from you?
Yeah.
And the biggest thing for me was whenever I look at comments that people make on your post, they love you. That's huge. The way people talk about you when they don't have to talk about you in that way is critical.
It's totally by choice. Yeah, I just try to do good by people. I say that I try to live my life after learning which I'm sure we could both relate on this. Up until Mexico, my whole life was, how can I manipulate, bend, twist, steal at my benefit? And then after Mexico was, how can I live in the most highest degree of integrity that I'm consciously aware of without hurting anybody and still accomplish my goals? And I haven't struggled to do that. I've done well in my life, and I feel that I've done it with a degree of integrity, and I have no victims in my life. You know, I didn't rob this guy to get where I'm at, you know? And so I think it could be done. And I think there's two types of ways to make money. You could add value to society and be rewarded for it, or you can take. And there's a lot of wealthy guys out there that are idolized in society, and the way they got there was taking. You know, they build a big casino, Sheldon Adelson, great example, and then stiffs 90% of his contractors and settles out on pennies on the dollar. Okay, everybody's like, oh my gosh, he's so rich, that guy's so cool. I don't know if, I'm not here to judge him, but that's not the way that I want to get wealthy. And there's Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, incredibly wealthy, provided an incredible service that changed society called Amazon. You know, he got rewarded by adding value to society. And for me, I just hope that I could add value to society and be rewarded for it. I don't want to take from anybody.
Yeah, I love that. So a little bit about, should have talked about this at the beginning, but a little bit about the different things that you do, because I'm big on delegation, systems, you know, getting it to where the business can operate without you. Obviously, I'm growing one of my businesses to where, Lord willing, I can sell it, but then I'll have another side of the business as well that won't be a part of that will continue to develop communities and do things like we talked about outside with the modular construction and stuff for the fire departments. So what are those things? How does that look? Because I know there was at one point whenever it was just you know, maybe you and your wife.
Yeah.
When did that start to change? Why did that start to change? And how does that look now?
So the only way to grow is to replace you. And what I have learned in my journey, and I'm not perfect, not even close, like in many aspects of my life, but to this topic specifically, as far as business goes, I'm still trying to figure out how to get my business to run without me. So very difficult thing, maybe not very difficult, but maybe time or whatever other reason why it doesn't show up overnight, but it's not something that just happens. It's a journey, but I'm not there. So I'm just going to speak to what I do know, is that in order for me to grow my business, I had to find ways to duplicate me. Now, considering as an entrepreneur who is intentional, who craves excellence, perfection, you know, precision, I had to learn another lesson, that replacing me, if I could get 70 to 80% of me, then I should be grateful. That's a tough one for entrepreneurs. Okay. Now, and then this was the lesson that somebody gave me. They said, you can be the guy that the AC tech that does it better than everybody else. Nobody could do it like me. And I ran my truck for 25 years and I'm the best in the business. And that's probably all very true. But his ego is so obsessed with being able to say that statement that it left him alone with his one truck for 25 years. Now you can choose to go, I'll bring people in. And if they're just 60 to 80% of me, but I can get 5 of them, that's better than 100% of me. And the other problem that people don't understand is that if you hire someone that is 100% of you, or that is exactly you, there's a good chance they're going to go and do what you do, which means they're going to go and build their own business. You need somebody that is 60 to 80% of you, because the 20% they don't have is the desire to own and operate their own business. So unless you want to bring a wolf into the hen house, then go and find an 80% of you and be patient with that human being and conscious that you don't want 100% of you, because if you find that, they're probably going to go and do what you're doing, which is the business. So I've had a few lessons out of that statement. 1, duplicate me. 2, understand that finding somebody with my exact skill set, desire, drive, motivation, willingness to work does not exist. Maybe it does, but it's probably going to come with somebody wanting to compete with me, because they're going to want to be the top dog too, right? So being okay with finding someone that's 60 to 80% of what I'm capable of doing. And then loving the shit out of them, knowing that being an employer comes with babysitting and being a therapist. And then the other half is figuring out how to grow the business. Because every business really, what makes a business, in my opinion? A business is made by the people. It really is. And this isn't just a talking point. Like, I'm not saying this because it sounds good, but there's no accidents that every big business, the first people they thank are their employees, because a business is useless without people. So in order to have a big business, you got to have a lot of people. In order to have a lot of people, you either got to have someone that you can delegate the people task to that is great with people, or you've got to be great with people. But if you're not great with people, you're just going to blow through people. So that is what I've learned when it comes to businesses, people, managing people.
It makes me think of two statements. So I always talk about people over profits, kingdom impact over income is another way that I would define that same exact statement, because that's huge for me. And the second one is, my people will grow this business. And if I get the right people here, they're going to be the ones that are going to be growing this thing and taking this to hundreds of millions. And it's by having the right people. And I look at very similar to you. Like, I have, hires that are top or bottom up hires that I have a perspective of, and I kind of have an approach for. Then my top down hires, I have a kind of a different approach for. But my thing is my top downs, they have to meet certain requirements. They have to be A players. And so I don't want to have anybody that's any less than that from top down. From the bottom up, if we align on our values, we don't have to view life the same. You don't have to believe in none of that. We just align on value. Yeah. Like I told you downstairs, sometimes I'll sing happy birthday, see how they interact with that. And if we mesh on that, and if you have a little bit of the skill, we'll teach you the skill. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what we're looking for there, because I'm about the human development aspect, and I'll put in the work. I'll develop the curriculum and the programs, because part of what God's called me to do is we're going to be acquiring 1,000+ businesses over my lifetime. And a big part of that is I can't go take somebody else's operating system and apply it to mine. I've got to create my own operating systems that I can apply to all the other businesses and kind of match it to all the other businesses. And a big part of that is developing these humans and taking a C player and helping them become an A player.
I mean, it sounds like that's your business model is improving people.
Yes.
And so I think that's a commendable, and there's a need for it, and it's a great thing. There's something that I've learned, and I don't love to come from this space, but it's sometimes in business, the people that got you to where you are today are not necessarily the same people that are going to get you to where you want to go. And being loving, kind, generous people, maybe in your words, living the vision God has laid out for you through my world is just being who I am. We want to hold on to people because we want to help them. We made a commitment to ourselves. We are going to improve this person's life. That is our mission. We are going to put them in a position to win and live in a more enhanced life, improve their quality of life, and improve their thinking, everything. But there's sometimes in life where those people just haven't accepted that they have this opportunity in front of them. And then by not accepting the opportunity, they by default chosen not to take advantage of it. And so I've had to find, I've gone through a lot of people, and it's always like, I wanted to help these people. And the ones that are still with me today along this journey, they're the ones that took the help, and their lives have substantially improved and changed. And then there were some people that I'm like, I had to stop the train. I had to ask them to come here. I had to open the door and say, hey brother, when you're ready to get on, we'll make a second lap, but you're not ready.
Yeah.
And then keep going. But that was a huge learning lesson for me. I left them on the train too long. I should have stopped the train sooner. And that was my heart that was speaking, not my brain. I just thought that maybe that was a conversation.
Dude, you nailed. I had a mentor of mine that that's kind of broke through that barrier for me. It's a couple of years ago. He had told me he was doing like 6 million at the time, and he was like, dude, my top salesperson, whenever he started to really take ownership over everything, talking about my mentor, he had to let him go because he didn't align on a bunch of things. And
that
it was $1 million+ in revenue right there was what he was letting out of the door.
Bro, that was I gotta get running. That was exactly what that the people that I've had, the most influential, impactful people in my business, forget money, that I've had to let go. It was because we weren't morally aligned. That's what people would ask. Well, what happened with so-and-so? I'm like, we weren't morally aligned.
Yeah.
You know, I value family, health, and integrity. If you're outside of those 3 values for me, well, we're probably not going to hang out for very long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Man, I have an 11:30 that I'm going to be late to.
Yeah, man.
What else did you have on there we could touch on, real?
We'll wrap it up. Yeah, we'll have to.
I'm really sorry. I'm sorry, dude.
No, man, we that's all we scheduled for. It was 11:30. You're good. I wanted to one more question, and then I want to close with some prayer. I'll pray.
Please, I'd love that. I love that, man.
Okay.
There's this guy Tony in my locker room. Anytime I'm not right, I walk in, I go, Tony, hit me with a prayer. Grabs my shoulder. He doesn't even question nothing. He just goes. So I love it, man. That's
awesome. What are you most excited about? What are you working on right now? What are you most excited about in the future?
What am I most excited about? You know, there's moments of excitement and joy, which are all rooted in temporary moments of happiness. Happiness to me is temporary. Where you get a deeper level of happiness, which I would call fulfillment, is through accomplishment and creating. Happiness, I could give you $100. You're like, I may be happy. And in 20 minutes, you still happy from the $100? You're going to be like, nah, man, that wore off 20 minutes ago, you know, or 10 minutes ago. Or you and I could have this really good conversation that we just had. And tonight, maybe even tomorrow, probably even next week, you could meet someone and go, hey, I sat down with Josh Galindo. Hey, I sat down with Matt Walton. And it was an incredible conversation. So that's fulfillment versus happiness. And so what I am trying to accomplish right now in my journey of what I'm most excited about is buying more time. So I understand that I have to work hard in my business to generate new, fresh revenue / money so that I could take that money and buy more rentals so that my rentals can generate more cash flow, which ultimately give me more money, give me more money and then ultimately give me more time. So what excites me every day is that I'm just closer to getting my time back. And then here's the funny thing. I'm already at a point where I don't necessarily have to work and I still choose to work. So I could have all the money in the world and I'm still going to wake up, but I just want to be able to have that choice, not be forced to. And so what am I excited about is I'm seeing all of the last 10, 15, 20 years of my journey starting to translate into more time. Like I'm sitting here with you, not moving tile at a flip or recruiting an agent or I have this luxury. And so I'm starting to see the fruits of that labor and that excites me. So getting my time back and getting to do exactly what I want to do with it.
Have you read Buy Back Your Time yet?
Have I bought it back?
Have you read?
Oh, read? No, but my brother-in-law read it and he spoke pieces of it to me.
But I think it's just something that comes natural to us, you know, where we start looking to like for me, I cut my hair for 18 years myself. And I just recently started going to a barber.
Okay.
That was to buy back time. Yeah. Right there. So I get more time with my daughter, you know, but then it's the same thing. It's like whenever I'm looking to hire, I'm like, okay, who can I hire that will help me buy back more of my time? You know?
Yeah. So, and then it's really, what people think when they hear that buyback time, they think I'm just going to sit on the beach with my extra time. No, it's so I can go pursue the next big thing that I want to go pursue. And then I'm going to be maxed out with that thing. And then hopefully I'll find someone to manage that thing, which frees up time, allows me to go to the next thing. Like, because my wife's mom's like, well, what are you going to do with all your free time? I'm like, I'm going to go find ways to get rid of it. And then when I'm maxed out again, I'll find someone to replace those tasks that are taking the time. Well, then what are you going to do with that free time? I'm going to go find, that's what I think we are. I think we were put on this planet to create, to manufacture, to build, to consume. That's what I always say that. If you don't believe that, take a human being, set them in the forest, and come and visit them in 6 months. You'll see a house, a solid source of water. They'll be dead or this. They'll have a house. They'll have a source of food, a source of water. They'll have a bed. And you just drop them in the forest. Like, you're telling me that humans aren't meant to create? No, that's our purpose on the planet.
No, I love it, Doug. All right, so I want to say this too. So,
please.
I gave you a letter at the very beginning, and yesterday I always spend several hours preparing for these. And yesterday,
I can tell, man. That was pretty well done. I've been on a lot of podcasts, and you did a good job preparing.
thank you, thank you. So I prayed. I'm like, God, what do you want to say to Josh tomorrow? So that's where the letter comes from. I'm not going to share that because that's between you and the Lord. And
Okay.
but I wanted you to hear that's the heart behind that letter. It made me
Okay.
nervous to give it to you. It really did, because it's straight from the Lord. It ain't my words.
Okay.
And so it's love. And what I believe is you haven't even scratched the surface, man. I think you got bigger things coming for you than you even know or think. And I'm pumped, dude. I'm pumped to just know you and to be a part of this journey. If there's
Thanks.
any way that I can help, dude, like any way, you let me know. You let me know. Father God, we thank you so much for Josh. And Lord, I thank you for his life, Lord, for waking him up this morning, God. I thank you for his wife and for what you did with his wife and healing her, Lord, and giving them that story, Lord. Just so incredible, man. And it just shows just the integrity, and it just shows who they are as human beings. And so that's awesome. I'm grateful that they're in my life. And Lord, I just pray that you would reveal to me how I can serve them and come alongside them and help their business and help their whatever that looks like, God. But God, I speak abundance over their life and over their family. I speak freedom, Lord. God, I pray that you open both of our eyes and our hearts to hear from you and to act out of obedience to what it is that you called us to do. God, your word says that when we draw near to you, you draw near to us, Lord. So help us both do that. And Lord, help us when we hear from you, help us be able to decipher that voice and then act on it quickly, because it's in those times, God, that we have that we start to be exposed to a relationship with you, to where our life starts to be supernatural and bigger things starts to happen than we can ever imagine. And so, God, I plead that over Josh's life in the mighty name of Jesus. God, I pray for his kids, Lord. I pray for every one of his kids' health and safety, their mindsets, Lord. Keep them free of addiction. Keep them free from the evil, Lord. I know that they're going to encounter it in this world, Lord, but I just pray a supernatural protection over their life and, Lord, over his whole entire family, man. He mentioned his mom, his mother-in-law. I just pray for all of them. God, I'm just grateful once again to know him, God. And Lord, we love you, and we pray this all through your son, Jesus. Amen.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Thank you.